You're all doing really well. And thinking back to so many funerals that I've worked at and seen, people don't even realize like how well you are doing. And if people had a funeral for you right now and the wonderful things I would say, you're all doing fantastic. Like truly.
I agree.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Funny in Failure podcast, a podcast that celebrates failure and shines the light on the emotional side of comedy, with yours truly, Michael Kahan. Today's guest is inspiring and empowering, all with a lot of laughs. It was so great to have done this chat in person. I absolutely adore Annie's try new things mindset. It's rare, it's bold, and it's awesome. She allows herself to take advantage of some of the many things this life has to offer. It's contagious. We also dive into Annie's story around being a burn survivor. It was beautiful to hear in the sense of her growth, loving life attitude, and the rapid learnings she's acquired about herself. As you can tell by now, I love hearing how challenging encounters have the potential to shape us in a positive way, and Annie is the perfect example of this. Anyway, let's get into it. Annie Louey is an award-winning comedian, TV and radio presenter, writer, and celebrant. She's known for her rapid-fire crowd work, blunt delivery, and cheeky charm that allows her to get away with almost anything. She's recently wrapped up her 5th solo show, Gold, at the Melbourne International Comedy Festival in 2023. This comes after Annie received a Moosehead Award for bold, innovative ideas to support her show Annie Louey is Flirting With Death last year. Annie also regularly appears on national television, having been a presenter and writer on ABC TV's China Tonight for the past 4 seasons, and a comedian on the Melbourne International Comedy Festival's opening night Allstars Supershow. Her on-screen charisma as the host of the travel show Rediscover Victoria led to a nomination for Personality of the Year at the 2021 Antenna Awards for Community Television. Annie's also been recognised for her efforts behind the screen, having written for the final season of Rosehaven. More recently, she was one of 6 writers invited to take part in the Melbourne Theatre Company's first stage program, which culminated in a play reading by an ensemble of professional actors. Annie is now working on debuting a full-length play. As a content creator, Annie's web series From the Horse's Mouth was selected for the Sydney Web Festival. In the 6-part series, Annie interviews comedians and performers like Claire Hooper and Dane Simpson about life and death while driving in a vintage hearse. Now Annie is the ambassador for burns and trauma charity Kids Foundation, while continuing to do weird and wacky things in the name of comedy. So as you can imagine, we dive deep and we cover a lot, and we chat about post-traumatic growth, being a burn survivor, her many talents, including being a wedding celebrant and a funeral assistant, loving life, death, growth, journaling, finding her voice, trial and error, fear of failure, and trying new things. Before we get into this chat, in case you aren't aware, the videos are now available on YouTube under Michael Kahan. That's Kahan with a K, unless you're listening to it already. I'll still be posting snippets of these chats on Instagram under Funny in Failure, so check them out if you want to stay in the loop for upcoming episodes, or you want to ask a guest a question. I'd also love it if you would share the podcast or share your takeaways from the chat. It really motivates me, helps the podcast grow, and ensures I can lock in amazing guests like this one. And just as a final reminder, the podcast comes out every Monday at 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, with the video to follow the following day. Anyway, sit back, relax, and enjoy today's epic episode. I saw your Instagram post, but I knew about this before, that you are a celebrant.
I am.
I would love to know what got you into this.
Money.
Money.
Yeah, well, I quit my job in 2019 and I didn't really have a plan other than I've got a year's worth of savings, and if this doesn't work out, then I need to go back and get a job. But for this time, I'm going to focus on comedy. And while I was waiting for more bookings, I thought I love learning and I would love to do a course in something, but I know that I adamantly do not want to go back to university. So I started browsing TAFE courses and things as well. And I thought I do like the idea of becoming a celebrant. And my friend Diana Nguyen, she does a lot of emceeing for weddings. And I like that, but I also like the idea of getting a proper qualification to go with that too, so that you can do both the ceremonies and the reception. So I got the idea into my head properly when I saw a photo of Beck Melrose, who's a comedian, and she was doing a wedding. And I thought, yes, this is cementing it. I just want to talk and get paid to talk, and this is a way of diversifying my skill set. So I was quite inspired by her, and then I ran into her on the street that year actually when I almost completed the degree, and I said to her, I got so inspired by you and now I'm becoming a celebrant. And she said, the photo that you saw, that was me doing the talking, but I'm not actually a celebrant. I just hired, like my friends hired somebody else because I couldn't finish the course. I couldn't be bothered. And I was like, you can do that? So you can do that actually. I could have not had to pay $4,000 on this course if I just wanted to talk at my friends' weddings and things, and you can hire someone else to do it.
But isn't that really cool, like those two together? Because it's not just, you're being a celebrant is really cool, but then you can also do the reception. So it's like
it's quite a monopoly. Yeah. Yes. So I do have a special package for that. And I find I think most people just want the ceremony because a lot of friends do think they're capable of emceeing a wedding. Yep. However, having been on the inside, I know that it takes control of time. Like that's their job, and they are professionals who don't get wasted or aren't supposed to get wasted at the wedding.
Is that common?
So I would say no. I think they're there to do a job, but friends, if they're nervous and then they can't enjoy themselves because they have a job to do. So it's basically paying for someone else to take care of everything, so there's no stress on the day and people can just make the most of your special day.
Well, this is really good because it's wedding season amongst my friendship group. So
How old are you?
I'm 30.
30, yes, I am as well. So we are in the thick of it. I reckon 80% of my friends are already married in my large, 12 people high school group of
in my
women. High
school group, most are. I'm one of the only ones that are not. Yes.
Well, there you go.
I know.
That smells like money to me.
I really like this. And what did a few things. I've got so many points I wanted to say. This is so exciting. One of my friends, you just told me, was at a wedding and the MC didn't prepare anything and thought he was going to be a lot better than he would be. So he's trying to make jokes on the spot. He's not a comedian. I don't think he's done any stage time quite in that regard. And he bombed every single time. Yeah. And it got to a point where people were like, don't go up. And I'm like, isn't that the worst? Because not only is it embarrassing for that gentleman, it's embarrassing for the whole reception. And then you hear what you're saying and how you're there for everyone and you want to create a good vibe.
Yeah. Was he a friend?
He's not my friend, but I know him.
You know him, but he's not there as paid to be a professional.
No.
He was just a friend.
Yeah.
That's when it's like, I really regret not paying somebody. As the couple.
You're like, yes, tell me amongst all your friends. So this is really interesting to me because you can also add your comedic and your voice and your style and stuff. Do you see a similarity of performing, getting on stage, or do you separate it from?
They're absolutely very similar, which is why people go, I can't believe you've done less than 30 weddings. But in my life, I've done nearly 1,000 gigs, I reckon. So that is invaluable experience, and I count every time I pick up a microphone, whether it's at a wedding or on stage, you're getting more hours, you're getting more flying time. So it adds to the being able to improvise on the spot, because there's a lot of wacky things that can happen at a wedding that go wrong. Before I started one of the ceremonies, there was a kid that just ran up and started talking to me and greeting the bridal party and everything. And while we were the ceremony had officially started, the Kindle was out, I was doing a formal welcome, and you just roll with that and you work it into your improvised dialogue.
Oh wow. Do you so when this happens, because this is newer to you, are you more nervous, or is it still like what you said, it's still you're up on stage? Is it the same mindset?
It feels similar, except that weddings are always scripted, which gives it a lot of safety.
Yep.
But the script is completely untested, because I always write to the couple's story and I put in jokes, but you can't go to a room and test those jokes that are specifically about those two people. And
you're like, so Jeanette and Dave, and like, who the hell's...
Exactly. And it's based on when I have interviews with the couple and they have in-jokes and they think things are really funny. So it's like almost having a 3-person writer's room and you're like, yeah, that's really great, that's great. And then you write
we'll
it.
Put that in the maybe pile.
And then I'll say it. And sometimes it tanks. However, the good thing is everyone's always in a good mood at a wedding. So that's the most receptive audience you can possibly have. Because that room, sometimes people rock up and they've had a bad day or they're like, make me laugh. But everyone at a wedding, regardless, is like, we're just happy for these two people. We don't really care about you. You know, you just do the legalities to make them legally a couple. But most people want lighthearted, casual, a little bit funny, a little bit sincere. That's the top brief that I get.
Dark, death. It's never going to work out. What's the point?
Yeah, I would say I found my niche. I mean, if you wanted dark, like I can definitely go there. But the majority of people just use those words to describe what they want, and simple as well. So that's something that I know is what I'm good at, because I think if you want like a really extravagant, I don't know, some people like themed weddings, or even like I want a Barbie princess wedding, which can be done. Like I've never done any of those.
I read
before.
on your website that you will also dress up. So have they made you?
Not yet. I'm still waiting.
But why don't you do something like really weird? Like you have to dress up as, I don't know, like a sumo wrestler or like...
I'd do it. I would
actually, that'd be super funny.
It. Yeah.
We had that at my brother's bar mitzvah. Well, we were just doing the sumo wrestling, so that's what sprung to mind. But you do like dress up in like some weird cosplay or something?
Yeah, if it was something that I was into, like I would do a Shrek wedding or a Simpsons wedding.
That would be so much fun. I would do that for free. A Shrek one?
Yeah. Actually, 100%. You heard it here first. I have the legal powers. You had the idea, but get me in a costume I'll give it on the house. A Shrek wedding is free.
I feel like you get so much content that you could literally do your next Melbourne International Comedy Festival show. Well, that's a real a lot of words to say that.
You said that really fast. You almost rapped it.
Yeah. No one wants that. I feel like you'd get so much content, so I'd be very excited to see that.
Yeah, I can see the poster already. So, yeah, whoever wants to be in my next comedy festival show, all you have to do is have a themed wedding and you get the wedding for free. So we all scratch each other's backs.
I think that's a great deal. And as you said, everyone's heard it here first. What is some of the, because I've been to some weddings where, everything generally goes to plan, but like during the bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah days, which is a long time ago, we had some interesting characters. We had one MC who kind of made a joke that the parents were divorced, and even as my 13-year-old self, like, okay, like it was just like not the right environment.
Yeah.
I'm all for any joke, but just couldn't read the room, and it was really awkward, and it actually burnt the house down. And you remember it as a 13-year-old, it's particularly bad. There was also, and this is not me advocating for any politician, David Southwick, who is a politician here, he used to be MC and DJs.
Oh, wow.
Which is such an interesting mix to then go from that into...
Really a man of the people, though. People like to party, and what's a good way to get your business card around?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So is there any... How did you feel the first time that you did this?
Oh, the first time... receptions... or weddings, because the first wedding I ever had was Sashi Pereira's, and she's TikTok blown up now.
Okay.
But she had an elopement along the Great Ocean Road, so that was a really nice way to safely slide into weddings. But they didn't have a big reception or anything afterwards, so it was pretty chill. The first one I did that involved a lot of other people would have been one of my friends' weddings. So that's good because they already know you. Yeah, and they know what you do. And again, it's a very receptive audience. One that comes off the top of my head that I got a booking for that was just complete strangers. Like this was like the biggest Asian wedding that I've ever done. And I feel the pressure there because when do you get an opportunity to have like 350 people in a room and you get to do jokes to them? They're not buying not that many people are buying tickets to my solo shows yet, so so you feel like, I got to do a good job. And also it's because some of them speak the language and they want to hear a little bit of their language reflected back to them. So I think that one required maybe some Cantonese and Mandarin. And then I think the Mandarin was what they requested, and we needed to get lots of group photos and everything. So that was fun. I think I loosened up into it because I just started riffing with anybody, like who was like passing by. I'd be like, yeah, what's your relationship to them? And
cool.
like, yeah, what, like,
this is fun.
Yeah, you're an uncle, and like, just chat to me. So they were very open to it. So that made me feel like I definitely made it, because like I didn't know these people. There was a lot of people in the room, and the night went really well, to the point where the bride was just hugging a whole bottle of Hennessy XO and pouring shots into people's mouths. But I didn't know what she was doing when she came up to me, and she was like, 10 seconds. I was like, what? And she meant like a 10-second shot. Like, you know,
holy moly.
Yeah, she was just like pouring, like, yeah.
10 seconds is a very long time.
I'm like, no.
Yeah. 10 seconds you get down the bottle in 10 seconds. I'm going to test that afterwards.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. And that was also the one where I told everybody that the cake was made by the groom's sister, and I got very excited for this. I'm like, yeah, how good is it when you can have somebody in your family be involved in your wedding as one of the vendors? This cake looks amazing. It's going to taste delicious. And then the next day, the cousin of the bride called me, because we have mutual friends, and like I know the guy. He was like, so the cake was actually fake, and we all waited around for it to be sliced up, and it was just made of like cardboard. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. So always check, is the cake real? Because there'll be a lot of disappointed people.
That is brilliant. I almost, at my cousin's wedding, and she was really involved in a wedding, as you should be, and she's never heard me say this story, but she was very involved in the wedding. Let's just put it that way. I almost slipped on her dress and fell on the cake. I missed it. I literally did a somersault in the air. I landed on my body. I slipped on it, because you know the dresses are so long, and it was during the dances.
Yeah. And
I slipped on it. Literally was facing headfirst into this massive cake that looked like it was a meter, like a big cake. And I'm like, I am going to have to leave my family. I am done. She'll never talk to me again. And then during the dances, with loud music, you just hear a thud. And everyone just looks at me like, just stick my thumbs up. And
so people didn't know how close you had come to.
No one. I think my cousin or my brother saw it and just goes, you idiots.
That would have been amazing footage for
just
funniest home videos.
But imagine if you didn't get the video, then that would have just been terrible. At least get the story with the video.
Yeah. At that point, you might as well commit. Throw your arms out and just Superman into the cave.
Yeah. Have you seen that video of the dog where the dog falls, and then as it's falling, quickly eats the cake and makes it look like an accident? Like, that is a smart dog. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I love that, though. Close calls at weddings. And
so has it helped? I've got so many questions, because you've done so many other jobs as well, and I find this so interesting of how it's helped your style. Has it helped your comedy, or has your comedy helped what you're doing now?
Whoa. Both. They do help each other, and this is why I also like TV versus stand-up, because this kind of scripted, prepared form of comedy, it teaches you to put in the work before the gig. And sometimes as a comedian, you just rush off to a gig and you're like, I'll write it in the moment. But it's much better if you even spend a few days beforehand, just having a quick think about your set, or even on the day, early in the day, rather than leaving it 45 minutes before a gig, which I have done tonight. So I'm not taking my ideas, own advice, because you often finish a gig and go, oh, that was great, I should write that down, and then you never do, and you lose the momentum and the ideas. So it's definitely taught me be a bit more prepared, because I always promise my couples that they'll have a script a week to 2 weeks beforehand. So that gives me a deadline. Unless they say, we really trust you and we want to be surprised as well by the script, then I go, that's cool, no worries. But I like to have someone check the tone and make sure that, would your audience find that funny, or was that too far? So I had a couple who wanted to be roasted for their age difference, age gap relationship, and I had to use some words that I was not sure if they're okay, like cradle snatcher and MILF and stuff, and there was I
have not heard cradle snatcher in a long time. That's so good. You just chat GPT and get all
True. I didn't do that. I've not cheated on any of my ceremonies. They're authentically from my voice, but I love doing the interview side of it, where I get the stories out in person, so I don't have any questionnaires or anything templated. I don't copy paste anything. I just go to a cafe and type things out, and really quickly, I'm just speed typing because I want to be involved in the conversation, and they're joking to each other and they're recalling memories, and it's just like really nice. I like that. That's my favorite part of it, actually.
That sounds so uplifting.
Yeah. And it means you get to go to brunch a lot. So if you love brunching, actually, being a celebrant is for you. Yeah. However, it means that on weekends is when people do their wedding planning, but actual weddings happen on weekends too. So I think I'm pretty limited with how many weddings I can do because I'm usually doing brunches instead with my couple. So I can see people who are very efficient at being celebrants will just send out questionnaires, and then they type up a script, and it's a bit more generic. Whereas what I do is quite time consuming, and I do think, could I be a bit more efficient at this? But it's highly personalized. So
I feel like that's what they get when they're with you as well.
Yeah, they think that I'm their friend.
Little they know money.
Yeah,
no, but I think you put in a very. I've been to a few where the MC doesn't know them, or even for the Jewish weddings, the rabbis will just do the most generic, and I've heard the exact same joke 20 times.
Yeah, I didn't realize that because I went to my friend's Jewish wedding. I'm like, this guy's good. This is really good.
No,
but maybe because I'm not
But
from
if you've
community.
been like 20 times, it's the exact same template.
Yeah.
They'll be like, Daniel, he's a great guy. He is, and then you looks at his hand, very funny, and his mum's name is Janet. I don't want to obsess with that name, but
damn, you revealed the secret.
Well, it's just because I've been to so many. So, they're good, but when you go to that many, you realise, but you're making it personalised.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, and at the end of it, you do become friends over the months of having to do intensive planning and things. So, yeah, it's nice that way. I expand my networks, and sometimes they come back to watch comedy shows, or they've come to a comedy show and then they need
nice.
me for
I
a
like
wedding.
that, but yeah,
which I think a lot of recommendations have come through that way. So that is there's some huge symbiosis there with the comedy and the weddings. Yeah, because a lot of people say I know plenty of celebrants, so you kind of need to do something to stand out. Everyone's a celebrant these days.
Oh, I actually don't know any. That's why I'm so intrigued by this. And in terms of finding your voice, so obviously you've been doing stand-up for a while, you would have developed your voice, but now that you're doing so many other things, which we'll get into, have you found that it's also helps with your voice, or your voice has been developed enough where you feel comfortable to be the top-notch celebrant that you are?
The comedy helped me find the voice, for sure. And once I found it, it has stayed pretty solidified, I'd say. I reckon it would be in the past couple of years, like really going, I know what I am now, and I understand looking back why some people didn't think that I was funny, because I am, the style of my delivery is that you blink and you miss it. Was that a joke? Oh, she was joking. Oh, she's very dry. And serious delivery, but what I'm saying is not serious at all, or it's a bit wrong or dark or sexual, and people go, what was that? And I think early on when I was a kid, people would dismiss me as just being a very serious person, probably, so
you're just like witty and like
But then having gone to a girls' school after my first high school, I was like, oh, I can finally be free to be myself, and it's not just dudes who can be funny. Now there's actually a niche here that's unfulfilled where they need a funny kid. Who's going to be the funny kid? And I'm like, I could be that funny kid. And so, going to a very academically inclined girls' school, McRob, if you're in Melbourne, it meant that not many people did drama, and I was always drawn to things that people weren't doing and being out of the box. So while everyone else was doing STEM, I did art and I did drama and anything that was around more language. So I did like 2 types of English, and I just loved.
Oh, 2 types.
Yeah, it was English.
Like English lit.
English language. I pronounced English wrong there, which is awful. Like, I did English language.
ESL.
So I was just interested in anything that people weren't doing, and even when it came down to like essay topics, I'd be like, oh, what's everyone doing? Oh, I'm going to gravitate away from that because I don't want to be compared as much, because I don't want to do the mainstream. I want to do do my thing. And that's been the case for everything that I've done, which is like, now working for myself and not doing the 9 to 5. I did finish uni and then worked a job for 3 years for
Is that the government?
Yes, doing communications for public transport and infrastructure. And then after that going, I'm tapping out. I know everyone is in it for life. Like, who leaves a cushy public service job?
I was an accountant, so yeah.
Yes. And now you work for yourself.
Yes.
And it's great. And I think in the end, I've figured out what my values were. Like, I do like traveling and doing things at my own pace and not being confined to 4 weeks of annual leave a year, let's say. So, yeah, I think it helped that I have had the journalism degree experience, because it showed me that I do have skills that I could still apply if I wanted to go back and do a real job. For instance, now my job involves a lot of news reading, and I do
China Tonight.
Yeah, China Tonight on ABC. It's a show about news and current affairs for stories that are happening inside of China, and we have turned it into probably 50% comedy now because of my injection
I love
into
that.
Yeah, because Stan Grant was the
new.
host, and he was very serious. So he's hosted it for a few seasons, and then he got busy. He's doing other things now, and Sam Yang and I are hosting it, and they wanted to mold it into our style because Stan had his style, and for us it was like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I don't want to read the news unless I get to have my own spin on it, and I want it to be satirical, and I want it to be
cool,
dry and funny. So they went, okay, we can work with that. So now I do trending news items, but I get to write my own gags and read it, and they do graphics for me if I need it, and it's just a lot of fun, as well as doing the packages that are like 5-minute stories or explainers on trending topics as well. So whatever's interesting me, I get to pitch that, and they go, yeah, sure, go out and do it, and then I get to make that funny as well.
Huge kudos to you, because this is a big, I know you've been doing so many things, but it's a big break. You've got your own TV show, you're co-host of this TV show. Very cool. And I know you're modest. I think it's so cool. But then to have the courage, especially when they're like, hey, do you want to do this show? To say, this is the spin that I want, and to go your way. Sometimes we'll just say, yes, gimme. And there's like nothing wrong with that. It's like a, step into a massive world. But you still said, this is how I want to do it.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? A lot of people wouldn't do that.
Wow. I do think that it's a process of elimination for me. What am I good at and what am I not good at? My whole life has been trying all these different jobs and going, nah, it's not for me. So I will pursue something until I realize I'm shit at it. And Yvonne Yong was doing the news reading for this show, and I saw her on another show called The World. So it's just international news headlines of the day and like a normal news report each night. And there was a viral clip going around of her reading the news, and then some wrong footage popped up of a satanic ritual, and it was the wrong story.
Oh, that's so good.
She just looked at it and took a second, serious face, and then kept reading the news. And I thought that I could not do that. Like, that is where I would just start laughing. I would start inserting gags in there. And so that's when I realized, like, it's not my strength to just read the news. Like, if you put me in that spot, I can't do what she does. In fact, I'm going to fail miserably at it. So please let me do something my way. Otherwise, it's going to be a disaster. So
that is such a good example. But to know ourselves, and we can be, especially in this world, and I've heard you talk about this, there can be imposter syndrome. There can be like confidence issues, which we all have. But just knowing that you know what's right for you, that's one thing, which is great. But to actually like convey that and to say, you know what, like I'm doing it this way, or it's not going to be a success.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have happened unless I'd gone to do so many of the gigs over the years and realised, no, this is definitely me and that thing is not me. Which is something I talk about a lot, having still kept track of how many gigs I'm doing over the years after starting with the goal to do 50 in 1 year. And after that, each year, before the pandemic, it was just getting bigger and bigger. And then at some point it was like, oh, okay, I need to focus on the quality of the gigs. It's not just the number anymore, but there's more to it. Yeah, there's a different way of measuring your success. And especially with some of those gigs are now weddings, and weddings pay way more than comedy. So how are you going to judge whether or not you're improving? It's not always about the number, really. Yep. Now it's like a mix of like, oh, what does my tax return say? Okay, as long as you're improving each year on that, like it's a huge pay cut to go from working a government job to working for yourself. But I think initially there was a a side goal of like, oh yeah, let's just grow the business each year. And as long as it's growing, that's okay. And like think of where you'll be in 10 years, because I think comedy is such a long game. And I think that was something a few people have repeatedly told me, is that 10 years is what you should be aiming for before you really start getting any good.
Which is very scary when you can hear that if you're not really invested. And I know that you did comedy and then you took a step back and then you've come back, which we'll dive into. 10 years can be pretty scary when if like someone wants to pick up a guitar and they think they want to be a guitarist, to be told 10 years you're only going to be good, that would scare a lot of people, but not with you.
Yeah. At that point, when was it that they told me that? Maybe it was Pete Jones and Raw Comedy days. Like I did it twice, and I think it would have been one of those times where he's like, someone older in the green room is just giving you some cool life advice. But back then, I think there's nothing else you'd rather be doing. If it was pick up comedy or pick up guitar, I was like, well, I've picked the thing now, and at least it can be a hobby if it doesn't go anywhere, you know? Yeah, so I think releasing the pressure you put on yourself when it's like 10 years, but if you're like, oh, it's 10 years and I really have to make it, you know, that changes.
It becomes so overwhelming.
Yeah, it becomes overwhelming. Whereas the last 10 years, I would say, have completely flown, because this is my 5th year now working for myself. Cool. And it's been like, well, 10 years ago I was 20 and still working the government job but doing gigs at night and thinking this is not going to work out. So the point of me setting a goal to do 50 gigs in 2017 was just to see if I wanted to pick a new hobby at the end of it. I was like, if I'm not liking this after a year, I will go and pick up a guitar.
Okay, amazing. Can we go back, because this is very significant, or it seems very significant in your life, is that you decided you're going to do 50. Why 50? Why did you decide to post about it? What was going through?
Yeah. Related back to the Raw Comedy experience, I entered twice and for some reason did worse the second time, and I was mad. I was like, how is it possible that I have gotten worse? And especially coming from the experience of being a national finalist at 16 in the Class Clowns competition. For Comedy Festival, they go and they find the funniest teenagers and make them compete. And you get a taste of performing at the town hall to 2,000 people and school kids and teachers. And so you get this huge rush, and that put it in my head that I wanted to do performing as potentially a career. And then after that, you get shot into the real world and you're like, oh, there's no pathways that are clear for comedy. Where do you go after this? You have to go to pubs and you have to perform. And I was not really enjoying the open mic scene. So this would have been like 2012. You know, the scene was very different when I was an 18, 19-year-old and women weren't running rooms, and it felt like I was just going out and bombing every night to lonely drunk men who were, you know.
I wouldn't like that.
So I would end up gigging maybe once every 3 or 4 months and going, I'm not really vibing this. And I couldn't figure out whether it was my lack of persistence or the rooms themselves. And I wasn't sure how to figure it out, other than maybe it is about just showing up time after time and just seeing what happens, because I think a lot of it was the mental baggage that I had around, like, I'm not good enough, you know, so I'm not good enough to be a comedian, and what am I going to do about this, because I've been rejected like twice now from this competition. So the frustration and the fire that I felt from that, I wanted to use it like one final time, and I set myself this ultimatum of, you do on average 1 gig a year or you quit, and you just see what happens.
One a week.
One a week.
Yep.
Maths is not my forte anymore. Yeah, on average 1 gig
I was just
a week.
The
classic accountant.
Yeah.
Good.
Yay.
Gold star.
Yeah.
And it did prove to me that no one really cares when you bomb. They're not thinking about it. And each time I went up to perform, whether it was good or whether it was shit, it just added to the tally, and it helped me to focus on a number that was objective. You know, the number doesn't have a feeling attached to it, whether it's good or bad or you want to run into traffic afterwards. It's just a number. Like, this is just number 46 of 50. And I talked to a psychologist that I was using at the time, and he was like, let's say you have, what are you afraid of? I was like, I'm afraid of being the crappiest person on the lineup. And he goes, okay, well, how many people in a lineup? I say, okay, let's say there's 10. And he goes, all right, let's say you're performing at 0% and everyone else is performing at their best 100%, which is objectively impossible. Yep. How do you rank someone from 0 to 100 when it's comedy? But he says, let's say they did amazing, and that means that the person who's watching got 90% of the ticket price already. And how much are these gigs? I'm like, oh, they're paying nothing to go. So it's like, okay, well, they got 90% value of nothing already. So what are you worried about? And I'm like, good point. So to think of it more rationally that way helped me a lot in terms of getting over the fear of bombing, which is the fear of failure, which is very bang on for this podcast. Yep. And another way that he helped me out of the fear of just going and bombing was to put money into a jar. He was like, every time you do a gig, put some coin in a jar, and you need to set the goal about what you're buying at the end. And it can't be something that you actually need. Like, everyone needs a holiday. So it's not a holiday fund. What you should do is collect money for something that is fun for you. Like, it's just a little...
Interesting.
Yeah, like a little treat. And I thought hard on this, and I thought, this is very funny now because I guess the item is like here with me today, but in a roundabout way. I was like, okay, well, I want a leather jacket. So I started putting money into the fund, and at the end I'd collected like $400. I'm like, that is a fancy ass leather jacket. And at the end of the year, done it. And then I just could not part with that money.
I need it.
I was like, oh, I just can't. It's a lot of money. And I thought, you know what? I'll get it eventually. I just don't know when. And so I just put that money back into my savings, I think. But I was like, but I learned a lot. It worked. I understood the assignment. And now I want to keep doing comedy as a result of it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. However, it's been... how many years since then? Like 8 years, and only this year did I buy myself a real leather jacket.
Oh, really? And that's the jacket?
That's the jacket there.
Oh,
I brought along with me. So that might work for some people as well. If there's something that you are really dreading doing and it's a long-term thing, put $5 into a jar every time you need to, just to help you along.
That is such interesting, and that's really awesome advice. I'm just thinking, I have like 50 questions as well. Bringing back the joy, because you mentioned that within yourself, imposter syndrome, fear of failure, you also sounds like some dodgy, non-welcoming spaces. How did you rediscover? It seems to be mentally, you must have done something within your mindset. I know by doing 50 gigs, you're making it, it's just a gig. Was there something else that you did so that you could keep on moving forward?
Yeah, I reckon I journaled during that time as well.
Nice.
Yeah, writing about how it felt, and then realizing if you read back on those entries even a few months later, how much things have changed. And sometimes I already had the answers and the wisdom back then, but it wasn't until reading it back that I was like, oh, you already knew what you were doing. As well as that, nice. Doing Melbourne Fringe, I said I wanted to do the 50 gigs, but also let's do a solo show. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off. And not only am I gigging a red hot go, let's also empower yourself by doing an open access festival, because no one can say no to you. So I think that was when I didn't want gatekeepers anymore. I was done with having a formal assessment panel judge you when it's comedy. So I thought, okay, let's just do a show and get your friends to come, and all you need to do is get a venue. So I connected with the Mechanics Institute in Brunswick that was down the road from my house, and they provided a little 20-seater room. And that was the perfect little space to do my first ever show. I didn't even know if I had 50 minutes, so I invited my friend who's a hula hooper to come open for me.
That's such a good idea.
And it just became fun because I got involved in the opening act too. At the end, we did a little hula hoop number together, and I think building the fun into it, because I liked hanging out with her and just seeing her have this amazing skill and go, please, like, show the world that. She probably thinks the same thing of me. She would think stand-up is so hard and there's no way that I could do what you do, which a lot of people say to stand-up comedians. So it was great to be able to support another art form and another emerging artist, and it gets you out of your own head about whether am I good or not. It's like, well, they're entertained. You know, the audience would love that.
Yeah. And it's something different.
Yeah.
And that's also what you need is, you know, when you, as an audience member and also like seeing the stand-up, when you see a stand-up comedian get up and like not feel so anxious, you know, you don't want that. When you see someone like the joy, the love, the excitement, you really feed into it. And I love that idea because, you know, some people do bands. Never heard of the hula hoop example. Yes. That is such a good idea.
Yeah, true. I do love cross-pollinating with other art forms, and whenever I curate a lineup, I try to add something else to it too. Like I do have like a musical interval in the middle, or I've done Q&As with authors before and then they can go and sell their book afterwards.
Ooh, that's something I want to do.
Yeah, I feel you don't need to be limited to just one stream. Like stand-up can look very different. It doesn't have to, and that's where I also realised I'm not just a pure stand-up because I really love theatre as well. So a lot of my shows have been a combination of, there's pathos, there's other actors or surprises, or there's a dance number, or I bring out a costume, or I have a giant coffin. Like, you know,
you're bringing you to it. I love it. Because people think stand-up has to be a certain way. You're bringing yours, and I've seen your stand-up. It's great. I like that you can do that because I always felt I'm not a stand-up by any means. I have to do it a certain way.
And the imposter syndrome comes back where I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not strong enough to do a stand-up only show and I need props and I need costumes. And that was the challenge for me this year where I wanted to do just a stand-up show, and I did it. And I went, that is hard work, but that I did it. And some friends were like, I love that show better than your last show. And then some people say, I like your last show better than your current show.
Please everyone,
you can't actually please everyone. So that was the lesson that I learned, is that I can put my mind to just doing stand-up and I can be just as good as the people that I think are pure stand-ups. However, it does take a lot of work, and people often assume that stand-up is just so easy, you do it in the moment. But that was a good learning curve for me to understand that I put in as much effort this year as last year, even though I thought, I'll take kind of the year off a bit, like take the pedal off, like take the foot off the gas and just I'll come back next year full force. And then this one just sucked the life out of me as well. So
it's interesting you say that, like from doing the research and getting to know you, your life seems to be, and I know it's not 100% possible all the time, all about like fun and what excites you, what you want to learn about. And I think it's so awesome, and it's such good advice, because just surviving as a stand-up comedian or a writer or a podcaster, and you do radio as well, you've done writing, you've done all the other stuff we've spoken about. I feel that, and you said this at the start, would add so much more excitement, because one, your day's always changing, but two, it's in the same realm, but it gives you a way to kind of explore different things so it's not so mundane.
Yeah, absolutely. I reckon that little paragraph that you said sums up my entire persona to a T.
Cool.
When people ask me, who are you? I'm just going to play that because I think you know me better than I know me. But yeah, the fun element is exactly what I follow now, and I don't have time for things that I'm not that excited by. And I think that is something we could use a lot more of.
Agreed.
Yeah, because I guess life is short. And if I get an email and it's for a gig and I don't particularly want to do it, like, I've got to trust that gut feeling now, because I think the outcome is going to be better for everybody. The person hiring wants the person rocking up to be excited.
Yeah, and if you're not there.
Yeah.
Okay, I always go and rant about fun. Being an accountant, long story short, I hated it. It was the worst thing in my life. Now doing podcast, screenwriting, all of that stuff, I can't go back to what I was doing. But every time I spoke to people in that world, and if you love it, then do it. That's my thing. But they're like, there's no room for play and fun. I'm like, but this is my life. Like, I'm not going to have it every day. It might not be all the time, but I need to be able to have an avenue where it's at least possible. And people are like, you're silly. Some people, this is ridiculous. And I think we've got like sort of similar-ish upbringings in the sense that both of our parents weren't born here, I think. And there's also a little bit of that immigrant mentality. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, this is all true so far.
And so there's no such thing as plain fun. You want your child to be like safe and like government job, accounting.
Yeah.
It's safe. You know, you're going to earn money. I know that there's still room for entrepreneurship, but it's very much play and fun is not a concept. And now to go the other way in such a, you're very young to have figured out all of this stuff, I think is remarkable. Is it something that you thought along the way, or you were just doing what interested you and then you figured out why can I not have fun?
I would say I lived in a household that still had fun in it. Like some of the really silly, ridiculous situations that my family would get into seemed to be really conflicting to the advice they were trying to give me, which was my dad would be like, seriously, like you need to study harder, do homework, and then he'd go and get his finger stuck in a wet wipes container, like
that's so good.
So I'm like, I can't take you seriously, Dad. And like my mum was always she was the person who would take us around to the shops and like look after us as kids while my dad was working. But even then, she herself has a lot of stories as well and funny family experiences as well from China and having a big family. So like they just like, I found out recently, she's just telling stories. She's like, oh yeah, by the way, her granddad worked weddings as well, like back in the day. Oh, cool. And she was like, he was the person who would toss people on the chair. Like this is like, I think Jewish weddings would do this too. Apparently,
I'm that guy.
Yeah, back in China, they also do that.
Oh, that's so great.
Except he couldn't work it anymore because one time he broke his leg and then he's
doing that.
How? And I don't know how, maybe he dropped the person and then he fell and like broke his leg. But she was like, and then he couldn't work anymore and basically the family lost all their income because his one job was to be the chair guy.
That's a job. I'd be a millionaire.
That's a job.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, Mum, that is so hysterically funny. And she doesn't even realize that things are funny,
That makes it even better.
Yeah, it does.
It feels like a Curb Your Enthusiasm moment.
Yeah. So I think I grew up in a family that just didn't know how hilarious they were until a comedian decided to air all of their dirty laundry. And my mum's always like, can you stop talking about our family affairs? I'm like, but they're so funny.
Does she find it funny?
She's that type of person who will laugh and then scold you. Be like, like, don't say that. It's wrong.
Yeah. So she loves you.
Yeah, I always think if she laughs, I'm off the hook. So anytime I've done something wrong and I'm just waiting for it and then she lets out like a little giggle, I'm like, bye, Mum. Like, thanks, bye. Like, that's all I need to do. Yeah, thanks for the permission. See you.
Have you written I know you do this in your stand-up, but like a sitcom about your life?
The project I'm working on currently with Fresh Blood, ABC and Screen Australia is taking a lot of inspiration from my life. So even though it's about me working at a funeral home, which I really did during the pandemic as a funeral assistant, it's also going to bring in a lot of family stuff too, as much as I can fit into 3 times 5-minute episodes. But I am giving some of my life to that. And then I'm also thinking of I started writing a play with the Melbourne Theatre Company's first stage program. So we had to do 15 minutes and it was read out by professional actors. And I really want to finish it, but because it's based on real life, I'm waiting for real life to resolve itself before I have an ending or know what to do with it. Yeah, because I'm currently uncovering a lot of family history stuff. And
is that exciting?
It is exciting, but also I've opened a can of worms that I don't know how to put back in. It's going to be revealed on an episode. I can't actually say. This is something where I'm like, I can't say actually. Well, it depends on when this drops.
Isn't that exciting that you can say that you can't talk about?
Yeah, true.
This will be out in probably a week or 2 weeks. So.
Okay, I can't say. Yep. But I can talk about it, except I'm so drained from talking about it that it's better that this just comes out in a TV episode and everyone just watches it. Yeah. Because it's made a lot of sense for me and the strange upbringing that I had around my dad being an older dad, like being 60 when I was born. And I was like, oh, you found true love at 60. Okay. All right. A little bit sus.
I did not expect you to say that.
Yeah. So now, trying to find long lost family members, and then I have found the family members, but it's not the happy ending that I would have expected. So when people go down the rabbit hole of finding their family history, they always think like it's going to be exciting or they'll find somebody and have a happy reunion, but yeah, it's not looking that way, and it's a lot to unpack around like somebody who your own father that you think that you knew really well, and then turns out you don't at all. But you can't ask him about it anymore because he's dead.
It's very interesting because with, family's complicated. We all have highs and lows. There's always, no family is perfect. If you don't mind me asking, otherwise we can go a different direction. Has it been, what has it kind of like taught you about this, or are you still in it and just trying to like figure it out?
Oh, yeah, I reckon it's too early for me to reflect properly. However, I knew that I was looking for two half-sisters of mine, and I love my sister very much. She is my emotional support animal, I call her.
Which animal?
Oh, which animal? Yeah, true. Definitely like a Doberman or a German Shepherd, like a guard dog style animal, because she, from a young age, was very protective of me, even though she's the little sister, especially with my accident that I had at 16 where I fell into a campfire and became a burn survivor. And she was just always there being like, who the hell's staring at you now? And she'd be like, like basically like on public transport.
Everyone needs that, yeah.
Yeah, so she and I have a very close relationship, which made me think I was going to have like a happy reunion with the sisters I'm looking for. So it's led me down the rabbit hole and like finding a lot of photos of them and going, somebody must know where they are. And it was like, I'll just hit dead end after dead end. And then I reconnected with my dad's former best friend. And he is like the last remaining keeper of all the stories. And I'm so glad that I found him because he's got stage 4 cancer.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I was like, that is so depressing. Except when I met him, he's so full of life. And he is just so positive where he's like, I'm not going to wait around to die. So he's just been, like, we've been hanging out and he's been telling me stories and stuff. Yeah, he actually lives like 5 minutes down the road from right here.
Oh, really? I'm going to hang out with him afterwards.
Some of the shops and everything. So it's been really wholesome in that sense that,
oh, nice.
Yeah.
I'm glad you could get that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that I could at least hear it from him properly, because I think that was one of the biggest regrets when my dad died, was to not have had the stories. And everyone's like, oh, I wish I'd asked my grandparents, parents more about that. And he's kind of able to give me as much as possible, and in English as well, because he's fluent and he's got kids here who are like really into sports, and he himself, I think he was a jockey at some point, and like he's a mascot for the Melbourne Footy Club.
Okay. He's lived his life.
Yeah, he's lived his life. So yeah, it's been an interesting time where I've had to just still do comedy, and especially a lot of my comedy is around family, and then I'm like, it's not hitting the same anymore because there's a lot more like sadness to it. So I'm still working out like how to navigate that, because like I've spent so much of my comedy career using it as a way to release tension off like family pressure or family embarrassment or shame, and just being able to talk about it and laugh at it in a still respectful way, because I would say my comedy is still like PC. I mean, I live in Melbourne. I've just had the filter on. I don't even know that I've got the filter on anymore, you know? Yeah.
That's Melbourne, yeah.
And so it's still enjoyable for everybody. But at the same time, I'm like, oh, it really doesn't do the breadth of experiences justice in terms of what I've learnt about them. And like, it's very one-sided, because I think it can come off like, oh, you're just using your parents for material, you know?
I don't think like, I've seen a lot of people like talk about their parents or bag their parents. I don't know how other people think. I don't personally look at it that way. Like, there's a story at your comedic like flair or your style. I don't think people will see it that way. But yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't want to be that person who's like, oh, she's always just doing jokes about her mum or whatever. You know?
Yeah. You've got a fine range.
Fine range. I've got a fine range.
You can use that one. Add my voice change as well. But it's also like, going back, you mentioned that you're a burn survivor, and you did a comedy show on that? Yeah,
it was my first show that I did in the Fringe, touched on it, and I donated 5% of the profits to the Kids Foundation, which I'm an ambassador for. Nice. That was another nice way to go. It doesn't matter what show I'm doing, if it's good or bad, I'm still doing something good for charity, let's say. So I think that was another way to put something in place that motivated me to just do the show, and that even if you didn't like the show, your money went somewhere good. So it's not about the quality of the performance. Don't worry about that.
Just go and support. But the reason I bring that up, and I really want to dive into this because it's also really interesting, is that is also, it could be a heavy topic, very emotional, going through something like that, which we'll dive into. And it's similar to what you're talking about your family now, in that you could have gone a different way and given up and been like, why did this happen to me? And I'm sure you had thoughts like that. And then for you to be able to look back at it and you'll put your perspective on it, but it sounds like it gave you a lot of clarity on quite a few things. That took time, but then you've been able to do a show and talk about that in your comedy. I have no doubt you'll be able to do this with the family stuff as well.
Wow, thank you for putting that faith in me. And it takes me back to when I did the show, I hadn't processed it fully yet. Yep. I would say even that would have been maybe 6 years on, and I wasn't truly ready to dive into it on stage. And I probably only had a few jokes where I talked about it, and now I would say I'm fully comfortable talking about it on stage. But now I'm at that point where I've recovered so much that people can't tell that I've had an experience with burns. So I'm stuck in that.
In terms of visually? Or
visually, visually. So that was a good point that Brett Blake made to me in a green room where, because I did this joke, I ended with it on the Allstars Supershow last year. And it's a very funny irony around talking about when I asked an ex of mine if he noticed my scars and like anything unusual about my face. That was, okay, maybe I should start that again. Butchered my own joke. So yeah, I've been going to therapy, and my therapist said to me, you know, you look fine, like, but if you're worried about your scars, just ask somebody that you met recently if they noticed anything unusual about you. So I asked this ex of mine and I was like, hey, when you first met me, did you notice anything unusual about my face? And he took a while, he paused, and then he said, yeah, I noticed you've got a really square head.
Just thinking, sorry, I cut it. I was like asking a guy if you noticed anything can only be bad. That's the whole time I was thinking like, oh no.
Yeah, that's true. I was not intelligent enough to realise that. So, the punchline is like, great, I need heaps more therapy. Yeah.
I worry what I've done to my girlfriend now. She's like, yeah, you look really fat.
And she was like, yeah, I just asked you need anything from the shops.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks.
Yeah. You're still fat though.
So that joke I thought made perfect sense to me, but Brett was like, hey, you might need to explain that a bit more. Like, what happened? Because, like, I really can't tell. And I was like, oh, okay, well, this is going to really lengthen out the joke if I have to be like, I had this accident when I was 16. However, I think there is a disconnect in people's minds when they see me on stage now and then talking about something that, like, is like, whoa, we need like, put the brakes on. We can't listen to the punchline now because we've got too many questions. Yep. And I don't want that to happen in the audience's mind. So I think I have redone that joke to add just a little bit of an explainer there. But, you know, it's also, it has in that time, like I've had a lot of laser on my face and I just had some like last week. So I look a bit patchy right now. But it's been a lot of work, and I think now I'm coming to terms with like that is part of my life and I can talk about it. I don't have to hide it away because it is also why I got into comedy in the first place, is that having that experience made me go, oh, wow, could have died at 16. What do you actually want to do? Like, what do you really want to do with your life? And that made me go, oh, I've always thought stand-up was great and I enjoy the videos, and why can't I give it a go? So that's what made me enter the Class Clowns competition in the first place.
So thank you for that. I've got a few more points on this because, you know, going through that, and please correct me along the way to your story, I think you passed out at a fire.
Yeah, I was peeling a pumpkin and then the knife slipped and then I cut myself on the finger and had a panic attack, basically. And I was the one that lit the fire. So I was in Army Cadets and leading a group of other students, and then we couldn't find the first aid kit and I passed out, and coincidentally in the spot where I lit the fire, and I had no idea. So I was unconscious, and someone grabbed me instantly, but because it was quite hot. So, first to third degree burns, face and neck.
That is very crazy. And it's also crazier. That's probably the worst way to say it. I'm going to regret saying this. In that moment, you've gone through something like really traumatic and obviously very challenging. But to even like think, you're like, what do I want to do with my life? 16 years old, you're really young. To have that conversation with yourself, what do I actually want to do in my life? It sounds like it changed your perspective on life and death and our relationship with that. And then, like, I like stand-up, but I didn't really know what stand-up was at 16. So, one, to have that conversation. And then two, I'm going to go and get these comedy DVDs and actually watch it.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Was it just like, did it change you instantly? Like, you sound very mature to go through, something like that. Well, that was said poorly, but you know what I mean.
It doesn't change you instantly, but you're having lots of conflicted thoughts depending on the moment, I think. So, I don't know if you need a trigger warning for this podcast, but I think I was flipping between I wish I was dead and I really want to live and make the most of it. And it just depended on the minute of the day of which it was going to be. So I think, and that was like that for even maybe a year, maybe 2 years on, you're not quite sure yet whether it was worth it because like to keep going because you're like, well, what's my future look like? Before this at 15, I wanted to be an actor. And now that seems like all those dreams are crushed.
Sorry for cutting you off. Is that because which I don't agree with, as an actor, we think we need to look a certain way?
Yes, yeah, definitely. The expectations of that and, even now having just done a camp that I was volunteering on where a guy is now who's a burn survivor as well is going to be in a Mad Max movie and he's going to be at he's got lines, and it's he gets to be, you don't not necessarily need to look a certain way to be in movies. Like the movie should work around us.
That's what, not everyone looks like Margot Robbie. That, you know what I mean? Like, in fact, no one does. Like, I don't know why that sprung to mind. She's in Barbing. You know what I mean? Like the average person all looks completely different. And we see a certain, especially probably more back then, we think we need to be like an absolute supermodel and be gorgeous guy, girl, whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And now I'm still in the industry and yes, doing TV, I do feel like it's such a vain industry because you're doing self-tapes all the time and I hated the like do your profile shots or do the panning shots or extreme close-ups of your face and I'm like, why do you need this? Like we should just show more real looking people on TV and especially the panning shots like of your body. I'm like, I would call this one just the let's check if you're fat.
So is it like up and down?
Yeah, like an up and down and unless they were casting for somebody who was, they were looking for someone bigger, like, we want a Rebel Wilson or something. Like, you can tell, like, it smells like, disingenuine.
Is that the only way that you can get away with it? I'm not
still acceptable, I guess.
I'm not advocating for it. It's like, now turn around. It's like when I used to do grad applications to be an accountant. Yeah. Because we'd all just wear top half, not bottom half. They used to be like, can you point somewhere so you'd stand up? Because they knew they wanted to see if you're actually wearing suit pants, not that they wanted to check you in your underwear.
So weird.
It is, but it's also smart because it is a bit of laziness, even though that was me and all my friends. But it's kind of be like, how do we ask if you're fat? But so just, can you do 200 burpees?
Yeah. So I wonder if they were also judging to see if your suit pants match the suit jacket. Like, is he?
Oh no, they just want to see me in my underwear. Yeah. Oh, so. Did it impact, because Michelle Brazier?
Yeah. Michelle Brazier, yes.
Yes, I just slipped my tongue. She's also a burn victim.
I saw her show and we had not connected on that level. I don't think we've had a conversation about it, actually. We shared an office and everything.
Oh, no, is this the Cool Creative one in Brunswick?
Yeah, the Stupid Old Studios, yes.
Yeah, I think I've been there by accident.
By accident?
Well, I didn't realise, I did a podcast there with someone. But just in their office. But I don't know if it was Stupid Old Studios.
It probably was. Yeah, it probably was.
The Auntie Donna
yes, the
people
Auntie Donna office.
It wasn't with Auntie Donna, even though I've had all of them on, all the three people. Very interesting. But she was talking about, from memory, the view of beauty. Because, when you go through something like that, especially to the degree that you did, it can impact, you talked about the highs and lows, but it can impact how one views themselves. Has that changed your relationship with beauty now? Is it still something, because it's a very complicated topic at the best of times.
Great question. And so many things I want to say about it. But let's address the first idea of perfectionism, because that's something I've struggled with my whole life, is to appear perfect academically, socially, and also appearance-wise. So it means I'm, even after this accident, I was striving for like, okay, let's get yourself back on track, basically. And because
what was on track?
Like to finishing, let's say, like finishing all your surgeries, finishing your laser, and just appearing normal. Like that was the goal for so long, and the process has taught me that there is no finish line, and you can just keep going, and at some point it's just gonna suck you up, and it's gonna be extreme. Like at some point you're gonna tip over to like, I'm not happy with this. Oh, now the wrinkles are showing. Let's get some Botox. Let's just do.
And you can see the obsession, like when you're too far gone and that stuff. Holy moly.
Like a lot of people get Botox. I'm not saying that's
I know. But when it becomes an obsession and this is...
Yeah, so I could also see that it could just take over your whole mental state and your entire life. So now I can understand that. I think the pandemic really helped as well, because we just did not care about our appearance, did we? Yeah. And wearing a mask, and that was a great way to help me not wear makeup, to go outside and go, you know what, everyone is just a bit sad right now. We're wearing track pants and no one gives a shit.
Yep.
So that, and now I can assess each day by the fact I don't want to waste time doing makeup if I have nothing on that day, or if, let's say, I have a gig later and now I'm going to see some friends, and that gig is going to be you're going to blast your face and cake it on. I'm not going to, it's impractical to just do that earlier, the real shotgun look from The Simpsons.
Brilliant.
So I can now go, they're just my friends. They don't care what I look like. So trying to fight those thoughts that are like, oh, you should really, cover up, or like, oh, they're going to see your face and it's a bit red. Now I'm at the place where I'm like, you know what, we all have some kind of hang up. It's something that we're self-conscious about, and people aren't always talking about it, or it's not their face per se, but it could be that, somebody's like, I'm really sensitive that I've got one long toe, and like, I just made this up, but and maybe it's a really big deal for that person, and I'm not here to take away from that fact, but I can relate when people are like, oh, but nobody notices that, and I'm told that constantly, but at the same time, it's how embedded that trauma is in me, because I was conditioned for so long. So many people on the street were saying like, what happened to your face?
Oh, really?
And it's just so intrusive on your privacy that's...
And also you're going through it mentally. You don't want to necessarily hear it.
Yeah, exactly. So I would never, these days, no matter what I see in public, I would never be so rude to go up to somebody and just ask them directly.
Or ask them to do a pan shot.
You do. Like, do you mind if I do a pan shot? I don't know you, but I'm just going to pan on your really long toe. But there are nicer ways to ask someone about this sort of thing, and I'm always happy to answer when somebody asks it respectfully. Or like back in the day when people would say like, oh, I hope you don't mind me asking, but I just noticed that I don't know, like, did something happen? Like, I'm just really curious. If they could just like articulate in a polite way, like,
so
I was always
that way,
I was still entertain them, and like these days it doesn't affect me at all. To be asked, actually, but that's a lot of therapy gone into it to acknowledge that event was in the past, and now you're not under any threat. So it's very much
what was the threat? Like the threat of going back, or that?
I think the body reads it as stress, as a fight or flight response. Yeah. So for you to understand that threat, that trigger is not something you need to worry about in this very moment. Like it's not a real threat. Like this is something that I guess it's the primal brain that makes you want to run away, and it sends adrenaline. So I'd get like sweaty palms and stuff if somebody would ask me about it, because you get taken back to all these old memories. Yeah. So I've been able to sever that connection between the freak out of like, oh, I'm taken right back there, like when I still had bandages on my face, or like little kids were staring at me, or like screaming or asking their mum like, why does she look like that? So I now fully acknowledge that I'm here, and that I've come a long way and like I'm in a really good place actually.
Nice.
So
and you got your thumbs up, which I love.
Yeah. So I think people listening to this and when they click on my profile or go look at the photo, they'd be like, I really can't tell, you know. So it just shows how much is going on mentally and how important it is to exist in this industry and to do well. You have to fight those demons constantly as well, but you can.
There's a lot. Yeah,
there's a lot, but it makes us really good artists as well because we have these other, I don't know, like skills to draw on. It's like, okay, bombing really doesn't hurt me as much because I've had some other shit I had to wade through, you know, in the end. Like I've come so far. Like don't stop now.
And you're smiling and I think and that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, to recognize a lot of us just want to sweep it under the rug, and I understand. But to actually know I've gone through something, I've worked hard at it. There might still be moments, but I'm doing really well. That literally, if everyone applies that mindset, the world will be
so true. You're all doing really well, and thinking back to so many funerals that I've worked at and seen, people don't even realize like how well you are doing. And if people had a funeral for you right now and the wonderful things I would say, you're all doing fantastic. Like truly.
I agree.
Yeah. That was, I don't know if that helps anybody. That just sounded like a very manufactured pep talk that said nothing at all.
It was definitely not manufactured. That was from the heart. And I'm just thinking back, if you would have like seen yourself now, like just being on TV, if you're, you know, back in, I don't want to take you back there, but you know, you're recovering through that process. To know that in a few years' time, just you've done so many things, but just being on TV, which you probably didn't think would be possible, you're now the co-host of an ABC show. You probably didn't think something like that would be possible. That doesn't define you whatsoever, but isn't that pretty cool?
Yeah. It's good to take stock and to think, I never thought anything. I mean, I felt like every day after that, I was just having bonus time. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. You know?
Wow.
Like this, and now I definitely am grateful for the people who pushed me along the way. Like I remember in the early days, a friend of mine was like, I can imagine you on TV. Like you should maybe drop the radio thing. Like we should see your face. Like she said that, like, don't hide away. Like I really believe that you, like, your personality would be great on TV. And so just to have that friend who's encouraging, or my sister going, I can imagine you on the gala one day. And I remember when she said that, I'm like, that's bullshit. Don't lie to me. That's dumb. Like, you know, I probably just walked off. But to have like really good company, and when you don't believe it, for someone else to just say that they believe in you, I think it made a huge difference for sure. But yeah, I never thought that I'd work with all of my heroes and to do comedy with them, and then sometimes even achieve things that they've not yet achieved, which is insane, you know, like you're actual heroes. And I'm glad that you reminded me of this so that I can just like take a moment to be like,
well, you've done so much, and it's just, I'm really fascinated because I didn't think about this so much, but like even like, you know, gaining weight, for example, like you can't be on TV, and then, you know, hear your story which is obviously a lot more in that sense of where you actually feel like you'll never be on TV. And, you know, you're on TV. It's not about being on TV. It's like you did like 10 million things, whether you got on TV or not. Just to, you know, you put a lot of those doubts to the side and say, you know, despite this, despite what's happened to me, despite being a victim, and obviously that's normal and you went through something, but you chose to embrace life, which is by doing all of these things as well, even the funeral assistant, which we'll talk about as well. And then just even like choosing play and fun. Like your life could have gone, no judgment whatsoever, could have gone in so many different directions. But it sounds like more times than not, you put your hand up, you're like, I'm going to take advantage of.
Yeah. I mean, life is so full of misery already, right? Like I don't want to add to that. I think that's what's made me appreciate things so much and laugh a lot, because this life is just so funny. And that's where I developed this dark sense of humor, I think.
I love it. Yeah, that's the best.
And I think people they see me on TV now, but what they don't see is in the makeup chair before the appearance. If I meet a new makeup artist, I do get a little bit nervous of having to explain to them, like they'll be like, how do you like things done? Or I can confess in the moment, be like, look, this happened to me, and like I just cover it up with some concealer. So that's been like an option, and just knowing that I have options, like that's one option. The other option is not mention it at all, because why? Like, you know, you can choose not to as well, and people should just accept that too. Like they probably are thinking like, oh yeah, I can see something there, but like I don't need to address it, and that's fine. So just knowing that I have choices and I don't always have to disclose for the sake of making other people feel better or making myself feel better.
Yes.
That's been pretty revolutionary. And this woman that was doing my makeup for the weekly, I needed to be, I think, transformed into a ghost and then back to a normal person again. But I was sitting in the chair and she was just saying, she just like saw into my soul. She didn't even have to ask me about my skin. She was just like, I can tell that this affects you a lot, but I just want to say you're beautiful.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah, and she was like, yeah, you're still beautiful, and I know that. She said something like, I know it hurts sometimes. It was like fucking psychic, and I was like, I love you.
What a legend.
Yeah, this like beautiful mum energy. She's like, I have a teenage son, and like, you know, I know that people, they get self-conscious about things, and you're probably self-conscious about this now, but you don't need to worry. It was just like it healed me in the moment. Right. Yeah.
That's what life's about. Like we've probably been done that for other people, and other people done it for us, but doesn't it just, a nice comment like that, sometimes I can feel like insecure to make the comment.
Yeah.
But knowing that if I do make the comment, you know, I don't have the expectation, but maybe it can help them. And what that lady, I'm not saying I'm that lady whatsoever.
Yeah.
I'm better.
Yeah.
But what that lady did was like just see you for who you are and just like embrace and give you love.
Yeah.
I know it sounds wanky, but
yeah, and I think
pretty
that's
cool.
what everyone wants, isn't it? We all just want to be embraced and to be given love.
Yeah. And did you, yeah, exactly.
Truly, that hit me in the feels, dude.
Yeah, that's awesome. And from the funeral assistant side, you've done so many wild jobs. This is so cool. Was this without getting into the pandemic, was this because of the pandemic, or was this something that interested you? Was this also potentially anything to do with your father? Or
Yes, good question. The timeline went that my dad passed away and we used a family friend's funeral home. And after that, I got my celebrancy license. And I wanted to get some work experience, but being a celebrant is very competitive, and people don't just let you shadow them, especially for weddings. It's pretty cutthroat, I reckon.
Wow.
Yeah, you never know if there's a celebrant. Yeah. You never know if there's a celebrant in your audience, and they catch you at a wedding doing something wrong, and they dob you in, and that's one less competitor in the pool. You know. So finding that it was hard to get into the industry at first, I thought, okay, well, let's forget about the weddings. What about funerals? Like, I really enjoyed that part of the course, even though you don't need to be qualified to do funerals.
Oh,
Anyone
it's part
can
of
do
the
it.
course.
Yeah, we did one unit out of
the
10 on it. So it was about how to write a script, and it just flowed out of me when I was typing it. Like, I felt I wasn't using cliches, and I could just really be real in my script. Yep. And so I thought, if I enjoyed that, and especially also the teacher said, I don't like doing funerals. I never do them. They're very depressing. We're just going to do this unit this week and quickly move on. And I was like, oh, you've piqued my interest. If anyone wants to hide something for me, I will go digging.
Yes.
And I've always been that way, you know, wanting to be outside of the box and do everything that people aren't doing. So I went and contacted that family friend again and said, can I help out for a day? And he said, yeah, sure. So got in the uniform, helped out. And then at the end of it, he did tell me that they don't have in-home celebrants. Like, they hire freelancers. And I went, oh, okay. So there's actually kind of like no point in me like wanting to get a job with you, because I could just freelance as a celebrant, and maybe you could consider me for some of the funerals. And he said, you did a really good job today though. Would you like to be hired? And I went, yeah, because I finished my 1 year of doing comedy, and I was ready to potentially consider going back to maybe part-time or casual work. And so this was perfect, because he was like, it's a casual job. It will just call you when we need some extra assistance. And I went, sick. And so I was getting maybe like a shift a week, but then the pandemic happened and I didn't have any other work. So I was like, I would like more shifts. And at some point it tipped over and I think I was working almost full time at this place for like a year because there was enough work to go around, not just because of the pandemic, but they are just always busy. They didn't notice any spike in numbers compared to like the winter before. Like elderly people do just pass away naturally. So I think it's a bit of a myth that there were more deaths and more funerals during COVID, but let's say like those people already had existing conditions and COVID was the final kind of tipping point potentially. But overall, they were just quite busy all the time. So there's no shortage of funeral work actually. If anyone is unemployed right now and going, I could consider a job that requires a lot of empathy, people skills, and admin, then that's the job for you. Actually, there's a lot of attention to detail, and I was not good at it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like that is, I don't know why. I just kept stuffing things up a lot, and I was trying so hard, and I don't know, perhaps it was also like a lot of driving, and there were a lot of car-related problems. So hearses, they're a difficult vehicle to drive. Like they're long. They aren't really equipped with all the technology. Like they're usually, older kind of cars. Like, I don't know who's making new hearses. I don't know if they're releasing new hearses every year, but like I don't think they're releasing many like new models. So they didn't have like, any kind of like sensor systems.
Imagine like trying to just chuck in the body in like your car, like a small little.
Yeah.
We'll make it work.
Yeah. If I see a vehicle that kind of is a van that's got some blacked out windows, I always think like, could that be a body mover? Like it stops you up in the head actually. Yeah. And if I see like a longer station wagon, like sometimes we also would use those to just for transport, not for like funerals, but sometimes like they just remind me of funeral home cars as well. So yeah, it's once you see, like you can't unsee.
It's like in the blue or the red pill. I forgot.
Yeah.
This just sprung to mind. Has it made you enjoy comedy more because that's lighter?
Ooh. During the time I was doing some Zoom gigs, or like during certain periods during the pandemic, you could still go and perform a gig. So sometimes I do a funeral during the day and then go to a gig, and 100% I like was not worried at all about tanking at the gig because I just got so much motivation from seeing people's 45-minute funerals and their entire lives encapsulated in this short summary that I could just take from. Like I could just be like, I love that. And the way that they lived, it energized me.
Wow, I'm so jealous.
Yeah, because if you think that I got something out of like this little traumatic experience and then like also... Because I have a thing called post-traumatic growth. So when something bad happens to you, if the conditions are right, you can really spring up. And
I'm a big believer of that.
Yeah. And like suddenly you're in a better place than before even. So like that kind of happened definitely after my accident and maybe a little bit after my dad's death, where you reassess again like why you want to live. But then after that, it kind of fizzled. I'm like, where do I get that hit? And I'm telling you, funerals. Like,
that's where the gold is.
If you want to get a zest for life, just go to a lot of funerals because you'll learn heaps and go, oh, so at the end of their life, that's what they learned and that's what worked and these are the things that they loved. And I can apply this to my life. Yeah.
You're seeing what other people appreciate in other humans. That would make you, oh, wow. Mother Teresa.
Yeah, basically. So I'd go to the gigs and just have a good time. I think that was a nice balance during that time of I don't give a shit, and that makes for good comedy. Actually, yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, like no one's going to talk about the specific gig at my funeral, so let's go.
So it helped with the bombing. It helped with the. Potential like pre-anxiety before
yeah.
Oh no, and has it continued or you've hit a different stage?
Yeah, maybe I need another hit actually. Now that I think about it. Like.
Oh, that's so true. I want to tap one thing before we do the rapid fire segment. You've kind of alluded to this before, but you did a camp when you were younger. I don't know where we are in the timeline. And I think what you're going through in your life is what you've spoken about, grief with your father, your career, you did the journalism degree. And I don't know what was quite involved in this camp.
Wow, how far down the rabbit hole have you gone?
I know your whole story.
Have you listened to a lot of podcasts?
I've listened to everything and read everything. And I find this really interesting. You're going in this camp, you're going through obviously a lot of stuff as well, and you realize that one of your... I'm not sure what the word is, but you identified that fear of failure was a driving force in your life amongst other things. Is this?
Yeah, I'm like, you're spooking me because I'm like, yeah, but how did you find that out? Like, I don't remember saying that. But
just like have like recorders everywhere, like in your car and the phone. I'm just wondering, what made you do the camp and what did you discover about yourself?
Yeah. I think a friend who was at the cadet camp or used to do this.
Is this the army camp? Or is this
there was a girl there who was a couple of years older, at the army cadet camp in high school, and she was definitely a leader type, and so she recommended this leadership camp many years after. So I was 21, had just finished university, really didn't know what I was going to do next. I signed up for an honours in journalism. I also got accepted into a Masters of Marketing and Comms at uni, and I also just a couple months after, got a job offer as well to work in government. So I was confused. Yes. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I also had my dad pass away close to that time of the university degree finishing. So I felt like everything was chaos. I had a breakup then as well, and just went, okay, this camp seems to be coming at a good time because you don't use technology on the camp. You just unplug and they keep it really secretive about what it is. So it's called the Rotary Youth Leadership Award, and people often joke, is this a cult? Like, what is going on?
The answer is we cannot confirm or deny.
Especially because I drive this bus into an actual Christian campground. So they've got all this signage but they just own the premises, and they let anyone rent out the camp. And there was a night where they take you out into the bush and you set up tents and things, and you just have a team bonding night there. So without giving it away, because it's the reason why they don't talk too much about it is that so you can experience it for yourself. And each person's personal development is very unique to them. And they're not saying every session is going to be useful to you, but if you go, and you have to be between the ages of 18 and 25 generally, but I think over the years they've upped it to 30 because participant numbers have dwindled a little bit. Yeah, because I think we're just maybe more skeptical these days of like, oh, that sounds like, oh, what is that? Like a retreat of some sort. I don't trust it. And so, and also because people are more inclined to just do stuff technologically these days, and they're in their rooms or they're on social media, like and they're like, oh, I can't get anything from this. I can just watch a TED talk or something. So
yours sounds way better when you apply the theory. The application of it is way better.
And it takes a few years as well for it to sink in. So there were a lot of talks, a lot of different types of leadership styles were presented, but ultimately it was about what is your passion and how do you find that passion. And I remember there was one activity that really hit me because I was paired up with a girl who we had to do an active listening exercise, and one of us was a person who was going to not listen at all. Like they would be talking to you about something they're passionate about, and the other person would just not listen. However, the person talking doesn't know that
they're told like prior.
Okay, this is very confusing.
No.
Okay, okay, good. I should have explained it better. So let's say you are the person who's talking about their passion, and I've been briefed earlier outside of the room that I'm just going to ignore you when you're talking about your passion. Yep. And so the person I was paired up with was talking, I think she loved sewing or knitting or something. This is her passion. And I was just there like picking at something on the ground. And, kind of just yawning a little bit. And how quickly she crumbled was terrifying. She was like, actually, you know what? I don't actually have any passions. I'm not really that passionate about it. Like, don't worry. And I was like, oh my God, like, this is the effect that like one little conversation can have on somebody, and you can take away their whole sense of self and self-esteem and self-worth. And that just like showed me how like just a little bit of encouragement can go so a long way. Yeah, but to hear someone be like, I don't have any passions, like don't worry about it.
I ruined this person.
Yeah. So these kind of like really practical exercises, like kind of I really opened my eyes, and we had to do a talent show at the end of the week, and we presented to some Rotarians, and I hadn't done stand-up. Oh, they're like the elders of the Rotary, who fund the camps and everything. And they came along, and I did a stand-up set, having not done stand-up for a while. And I think it was around that time that, I hadn't started a job yet. So I wasn't really gigging at all. I probably came off the back of gigging every few months at university. Yep. And I did a 5-minute set and I saw one of the older mentors just losing his mind laughing.
Nice.
And he is now he loves comedy. He's on the judging panel for Comedy Festival.
Cool.
So he's a true...
Because of that. Oh, he was.
Because he's such a huge comedy lover, he went on to participate in Funny Ton. And he, like, the competition where you try to write as many reviews as possible for the Comedy Festival website, and they're competing for this award at the end, the glory of being number one funny tonner. So I at the time, I think I knew that he really loved comedy. So to see somebody losing it over something that I was performing, that's awesome. Burned into my memory. This guy keeled over, enjoying himself so much. And I think afterwards he did say to me that you've got to keep going. Like, that was really good. So that was the encouragement that I needed to at least sign up for a few more gigs. So having the right supportive environment
can go so far. That's very eye-opening for me with that example.
Yeah.
Also the one before.
Yeah. So he was my little nugget of encouragement. And they also taught us about this concept of you're like being given a lollipop, and that person who gave you a lollipop many years ago doesn't remember giving you that lollipop, but to you that lollipop changed your life.
Yeah.
So I think that dude definitely was somebody who gave me a lollipop, and I have told him in recent years that, like, you changed my life, and he accepts that, and he's very happy about it. He's thrilled. He came to my Comedy Festival show this year.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It just so much has sprung to mind. Like, so many people that I haven't said thank you or you did this for me, can be small or large, can go so far. And I've just got 10,000 thoughts. I'm going to have to digest them just to know that you can actually make such a significant difference to someone through something so minor.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And it's definitely the types that it could be a teacher and they don't even remember anything they said. They're like, oh yeah, cool. Yeah.
Like,
sick.
who are you again?
Yeah. But you can have that kind of impact on someone else. Definitely. You have had that impact. You don't even know it. So that's where a little bit of kindness every day, I guess, goes a long way. You never know when that little tiny nice thing can go on to make somebody huge, actually.
It really is true. That is a great way to get into the rapid fire segment, because there's nothing I can say that will be more inspiring than what you just said. Okay, so how these rapid fire segments, are we all good for?
Oh yeah, all good, yeah.
I'm probably going to wrap up in like 5-ish because I got basketball soon. Okay, so rapid fire segment. First thing that springs to mind, but you can take your time to think about it. And I'm just going to see if we've left anything that I have missed from what you've said. No. What has been your special ingredient to work all these years?
The special ingredient to work. Embracing the fact I like to be organised. I used to think I was go with the flow. I am not go with the flow. I have no chill.
I won't comment on them.
Sure. Okay, you're not going to comment. Okay, so doing that MBTI test and figuring out I'm actually a J and not a P.
What's the MBI?
Myers-Briggs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And now I know I need structure, and I do like planning, and that's kind of why throughout the years I've been stressed, always running late. I don't like to be late, and I can prevent it now that I realise that, you need a very colour-coded, I don't have my phone here, like diary, you need reminders. I like things to be booked in like months in advance, so weddings are perfect for that. Cool. You can book me for a comedy gig in 4 months' time. I will 100% be there, but if you want something done like tomorrow, like that's going to have me freaking out. So I would rather you book me like in crazy early, and that makes me very happy.
Very cool. I won't comment on them. What are you most proud of?
Most proud of? Most proud of being alive. Like I'm here. I'm the happiest I've ever been, genuinely. So yeah, I'm proud of myself for that.
That is awesome. This is very, give it the thumbs up. I love it. It's contagious. Everyone's going to feel it. It's like Thor with the hammer where he like shoots electricity. Very cool stuff. Next big dream or goal?
Make this TV show happen. So we're just building 3 5-minute sketches now, but I'm really envisioning it, dreaming big. This is a TV show. I'm manifesting.
Yes. Do you have a process?
A process right now is being in a writer's room with my co-writer Josh, and we're in the almost casting phase of it.
Cool.
So this is all new to me because I've never done a proper writer's room before, and now having more people in the room, like my team is 5 people, and I love to be a lone wolf when it comes to comedy, and this has been like doing a group assignment, and I've not done that since uni, and everyone hates group assignments, but it's a really good way to relearn how to operate in a team environment and how to negotiate and make sure that everyone's happy, because essentially I'm their manager. I'm the creator of the project, and I need to make sure everyone is getting along and that they're getting what they want, that they're watered, they're fed, they're balancing their personal lives and stuff. And it's a completely new position for me to be in.
I love it. That is very exciting. I might ask you more questions next time.
But you're not allowed now.
Yeah, I'll ask you off there. I'm not sure if you're still doing this, but you've spoken about this in the past. What has meditation done for your health?
I wish I meditated more. However, I would say meditation has helped me identify the thoughts that are irrational and unhelpful. When it's worked for me the best, I think that has been the most valuable tool, is to be really surprised by your own thoughts, to sit there and go, oh, that was in there and that was dark, man. Like, you know, and just to acknowledge how many thoughts you have every day. There's just so many. So sometimes it's like, oh, no wonder I'm stressed. Let's take a moment to take a breather and like watch the thoughts. And like there's 1,000. You're like, okay. Yeah, I need to slow down a bit. But in lieu of meditation, because I haven't been doing it very much, I think the journaling has helped a lot.
Yes,
the processing and being able to first write out what you think, and then when it comes up, like in a situation like this where you ask me something, at least I've done some processing before.
I was about to say, like, you've really like analysed, like you obviously are a deep thinker and...
Yeah, too deep, man. Too deep. Can you take it away? Sometimes I wish I was dumber, like dumb as rocks. I'd rather that.
You're very self-aware.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a very good compliment. I would take that.
You can take all that you need. You
yes,
said that like paragraph about
yes,
feed
I'm milking
me.
you.
Yeah, that would also be a hilarious skit. I'm sure it has nothing to do with what you're doing, but that image.
Yeah, you never know where inspiration might strike. So yeah,
be dressed as a cow.
Bookmarking that.
Any advice you want to give to people who want to try something different or new, but perhaps a bit fearful of doing so?
Yeah. What's the tiniest version of what you want to do? Go try that. So if you want to go do stand-up, why not offer to make a speech at a party? Or, you know, if your friend's got a wedding on, maybe you can offer to MC, but only if you're not horrendous and you're not going to kill them.
Don't be shit and ruin the wedding.
Yeah.
That was me. I MC'd a wedding, so.
And did you like it?
No, because
like
I was too serious.
You're too serious.
Which is weird because I'm not.
Yeah, but at least you did it. You know, no one's going to be good at that thing the first time that you do it.
Yeah,
so,
still scarred.
I mean, if you want to do stand-up, I don't recommend the next jump be go MC a wedding. But you know where I'm going with that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Last question before I ask how people can follow you and keep up to date with you. What is the one question I should have asked you?
Oh, dang. That's so good. You covered so much ground. I reckon something really trivial, like one of those would you rathers, because I always think they're super fun.
Oh, before you answer that, I read this in your website, I think, or somewhere, that you're a burn survivor whose favourite smell is a woodlog fire.
I do love a woodlog fire.
That is very interesting.
It's not maybe the favourite, but I would say like up there with jasmine. Jasmine is number one. I love the smell of jasmine, but I'm sure they're going to be made illegal soon because they say woodlog fires are so bad. They're like going to remove them from country houses. Like there's always news articles being like, yeah, these are very bad, and maybe soon we'll eradicate them. Yeah, smell it while you can. Yeah.
Was there any other trivial thing, anything that springs to mind?
Well, one time on a Zoom, somebody did a would you rather that I misread. I misread it as would you rather be a snail or would you rather be a big snail or a small worm, I think. But that's not what they were trying to ask, I think, but that just stuck in my mind.
Well, how would you answer that?
I don't know. I would rather be the snail because you have a portable house.
Yeah. You know, houses are expensive. You've
Yeah.
got to pay that mortgage. Yeah.
Actually, can we do that again? Because I've misread the story. Okay. So on a Zoom one time, somebody asked a question that I skimmed and misread. I don't remember what the actual question anymore was, but I was happy to answer what I thought the question was, which was, would you rather be a snail or a large worm? What would you rather?
Are you asking me the question? So you said a large worm or a small snail? Small snail is very interesting because when you got a house, and we all want a house. I can take this for like 10 hours. I'll make it very quick. I think I like the house factor, but it's more dangerous and you'll probably die. Being a giant worm, although you'll be disgusting, you can maybe like live in the world. You can like, if you're like giant, like maybe like you can do a podcast, like maybe you can like still live, or you're just this disgusting creature and everyone's like terrified of you.
Yeah. Wow, that was very deep, actually. Because I think a large worm, you'd be like anaconda size. You'd be going around like destroying shit.
Yep.
Whereas a small snail would be very, very cute, wouldn't it? Like
it would, but you're probably going to die.
exist.
Someone's going to stand on you.
Yeah, that's true. All right, for the novelty, I agree. Big worm.
Big worm.
Yeah.
Oh, so what was your original answer?
I would rather be the snail.
Oh, I changed your mind.
Yeah,
that's
you changed
the
my
power
mind.
of everything that you've been saying. Before we go, how can people follow you, keep up to date with you, and all of that cool stuff?
You can go to my website for all things. That's annielouey.com, spelled ANNIELOUEY, because people get my last name wrong all the time. And on Instagram, same thing, Annie Louey. And the other platforms don't really matter at this point. I'm blowing up on Instagram, so head there.
Everyone, that will be in the episode notes so people can check it out. Thank you so much. You are so amazing and inspiring, and this was fantastic. Thank you so much.
That's too kind. Thank you so much. I've loved being on this pod, and congratulations on all of your success as well.
Stop it. Thank you. Awesome. We're cut. Thank you.
Nice.
How are you feeling?
Feel free to edit that worm bit out. Like, I feel like I'm going to